Hi everyone, I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for joining me. It is Wednesday morning, May 15th, 2024. It looks like Putin is on his way to visit the Chinese President, Xi Jinping. Okay, it only let me see 4 aircraft at a time. So, these aircraft are used as the primary aircraft of the Russian presidential aircraft fleet. 4 were used by the Russian President Vladimir Putin and by Dmitry Medvedev as VIP planes. So they're on their way to China for his meeting Thursday with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping. This is Putin's second visit in less than a year. It's the latest sign of their growing alignment amid hardening global fault lines as conflict devastates Gaza and Russia makes advances in Ukraine. I have heard that with the latest advancements Russia is making in Ukraine, they are meeting very little resistance, and all the images of the trenches that supposedly Ukraine had dug are in fact not even there. If it is true, I don't know. That's rather shocking. This is his first visit to China since his inauguration on May 7th. I thought it was interesting that this will extend his rule until 2030. Yeah, we all know about the 2030 agenda. Part of their meeting is going to be to deepen cooperation in industrial and high-tech outer space. Yeah, we've heard about the nukes in space. And the supposed peaceful use of nuclear energy, artificial intelligence, AI, renewable energy, and other innovations. I wonder if they're going to discuss the new sanctions that Biden put on China for their green energy industry. Last year, China and Russia came to an agreement for goods such as microelectronics. Evidently, 90% of the microelectronics that Russia needs comes from China. They reached a $240 billion agreement. China also provides a significant quantity of machine tools, drones, turbojet engines, and technology for cruise missiles. And nitrocellulose, which Russia uses to make a propellant for weapons. It is the main ingredient for gunpowder, evidently, nowadays. I have heard also that Russia is working to make its own drone factories, and evidently China has been helping them to do that. China also is helping Russia to improve its satellite and other space-based capabilities, and has been providing Russia with images, satellite images, to help them with the war on Ukraine. Iran has also been supplying Russia with weapons. They evidently came to an agreement and have sent 400 surface-to-surface ballistic missiles. In exchange, they're evidently going to get high-tech Russian weaponry. And Iran is also helping them build a drone factory. And last November of 2023, Tehran announced it would be receiving Russian Su-35 fighter jets, as well as Mi-28 attack helicopters. In February of this year, 2024, Russia also sent an Iranian satellite into orbit, showing its growing ties with Iran with the space industry. The satellite that they sent up for Iran is a Pars-1 research satellite. It evidently is equipped with 3 cameras. So that's also going to be used for movement of troops, I am sure, military type maneuvers. I have always believed that Iran does have nuclear weapons. I do know they bought one many years ago from Pakistan. Iran recently said it would change its nuclear doctrine if Israel attacked its nuclear facilities. And recently, an Iranian lawmaker told an Iranian news agency that the country already has nuclear weapons but do not announce it. The reason I believe that Iran has nuclear weapons is that the U.S. has attacked every country that doesn't have them. And if you look at our history, countries that do have nuclear weapons, we don't ever attack. North Korea, China, that all comes to mind. And of course, Russia. As far back as 2013, Zimbabwe signed an agreement with Iran and sold them materials for Iran's nuclear weapons program, probably yellow cake. The IAEA announced earlier this year that Iran had obtained enough enriched uranium to make several nuclear bombs if Iran chooses to build them. I think they have them just in case the Ayatollah decides that he wants them, and so they have them in supply. Ahmad Bakshia Ardestani said, "In my opinion, we have achieved nuclear weapons, but we do not announce it. It means our policy is to possess nuclear bombs, but our declared policy is currently within the framework of the JCPOA." Ahmad Bakshia Ardestani told the Iran-based outlet. Ardestani, who has served in government in various capabilities since the early 1980s, and now represents a district close to the Natanz nuclear facility, told the state-run Rawi Dad 24 outlet that Tehran took the risk of attacking Israel in April due to Iran's possession of the nuclear weapons. The Iranian parliament member also noted that in a climate where Russia has attacked Ukraine and Israel has attacked Gaza, and Iran is a staunch supporter of the resistant front, it is natural for the containment system to require that Iran possesses nuclear bombs. However, whether Iran declares this is another matter. Yeah, I have said for years and years, I believe that they have them. Right now, in my opinion, they're just playing games. The attack on Israel on October 7th by the people there, the Hezbollah in Gaza Strip, was allowed. Israel didn't send in any help or support somewhere between 8 and 10 hours after the attack began. I believe that delay in sending help was deliberate. Just like the U.S., we have a law on the books which will allow first strike on U.S. soil before we respond. So it is, in my opinion, the reason they delayed the response was just like the U.S. plan to absorb first strike so that the people, the citizens, will rally behind the governments to retaliate. Prior to the attack on Israel, the government was divided. There was a lot of controversy going on, protests, etc., going on there in Israel against the government, much like what you see currently happening here in the United States. So when Israel responded with supposedly a retaliatory strike against Iran, they warned Iran that they were going to do it, making sure that they didn't strike anything important and preventing a loss of life. Iran did the same thing when they retaliated against Israel retaliation. They warned Israel that they were coming. They even announced when their drones were coming. The people of Israel had like 3 to 4 hours to respond, to get to safe shelters before the Iranian attack. They're just playing games. It's just all a show. And the people of Israel and the people of Iran were all happy. And, it helped take some of the pressure off of the two countries for our response. So keep that in mind here for those of you that are in the United States. The first attack on supposedly the United States would be our military bases, which would be allowed to happen by our U.S. government. Critics of the Biden administration are often pointing fingers to Biden for the billions of dollars that Biden sent to Iran. That helped them purchase more things that they need for their nuclear program. What they don't tell you here is that nuclear security alarms are ringing over Iran's illicit atomic program in Europe. In April, intelligence agency there reported that Germany had received information that the Islamic Republic continued to intensify procurement efforts by Iran for its nuclear and missile program. Well, they recently made an agreement with Russia to acquire more of the things that they need. David Wormser recently said he's a former senior advisor for nonproliferation and Middle East strategy for former vice president. He warned, as intelligence is generally incomplete and is inherently seeking to discover, which is given to be opaque with much hidden, we can assume surprises. An example he gave was the Iraq War, where they imagined there was more than what there was. But yet there was more than what is properly understood. The Pakistani, the Russian, the Chinese, the Indian, and even the South African programs all were ahead of what we had expected. Also, Libya was further advanced than what they realized. Back on May 10th, the Washington, D.C. based Institute for the Study of War said that Iranian hardliners are continuing to discuss Iran's ability to procure a nuclear weapon. A hardliner Iranian member of parliament speculated that Iran had developed nuclear weapons, but it was just that they would not announce that they had them. I have heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but I have heard that they have at least 100 nuclear weapons right now. Now, they said back in April that Iran was trying to obtain 300 tons of Iranian yellow cake from Niger. A French investigative outlet reported on April 30th that Iran and Niger had been negotiating a deal since late 2023 for Iran to provide Niger with drones and surface-to-air missiles in exchange for the 300 tons of Iranian yellow cake. A Nigerian delegation traveled to Tehran in January of this year and signed an unspecified agreement with Iranian officials, including Defense and Armed Forces Logistics Minister Brigadier General Mohammad MaryGreeley News777. Now, Ashtiani is responsible for managing the Iranian defense industry, including arms procurement and sales. Now, Niger ended its counterterrorism partnership with the United States in March of this year after U.S. officials accused Niger of secretly exploring a deal to allow Iran access to Nigerian uranium reserves on the same day that Iranian Foreign Affairs Minister met with the new Iranian ambassador to Niger. That's when they ended the agreement with the United States, the very same day. So Iran is getting its nuclear materials, the yellow cake, from both Zimbabwe and Niger. And it looks like they're not exchanging for money, but mostly for weapons that are already built. So I thought I would go to Google Earth and show you where Zimbabwe is, in case many of you don't know. And many of you probably remember when Hillary Clinton sold to Russia the use of one of our uranium mines. There was all kinds of talks about different bribes that were given to the Clinton Foundation, but of course nothing ever came of that. Back on or in June of 2010, Resistant Capital, a Russian investment bank with ties to the Kremlin, which was promoting the Uranium One stock, Bill Clinton was paid $500,000 for a speech in Moscow. Shortly after the Rosatom acquisition of Uranium One was announced. There was also another donation made by the family of Uranium One back in 2015, $2.35 million to the Clinton Foundation. Supposedly the donation was legal but not publicly disclosed by the Clinton Foundation, despite an agreement with the White House to disclose all contributions. All total, there was $145 million donated during that time to the Clinton Foundation related to this company. The U.S. is preparing to send another $400 million military aid package to Ukraine. This after the lawmakers did pass a $95 billion bill that sent money to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. The running joke there in Congress is how since Biden's been in office, he's made a lot of millionaires, new millionaires, but the problem is they're all in Ukraine. In July, at the NATO summit in Washington, it's going to be discussed to offer a membership to NATO to Ukraine. The Ukrainian President Zelensky has been invited to the Washington summit, as they put it, to lock arms with him in a way to show Russia that NATO allies aren't going anywhere. Julian Smith said that we will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. NATO is also seriously discussing the sending of troops into western Ukraine in supposed non-combat roles. Estonia Defense Forces General Martin Herman said that they had been discussing for months about sending troops to western Ukraine to take on jobs like medical services, logistic, or air defense for some of the western cities. Midas Roll, the Estonian President National Security Advisor, said Estonia would prefer any deployment to take place as a broader NATO mission, suggesting it would show a broader combined strength and determination. The French President, Macron, was the first to raise the possibility of non-combat deployment, an idea that garnered support from NATO's Baltic members. The Polish Deputy Foreign Minister also said, now this was in March, that Warsaw made down Russian missiles flying over western Ukraine in response to repeated intrusions of Moscow's munitions into Allied airspace during the bombardment of Ukrainian targets. NATO is analyzing different concepts, including that such missiles should be shot down when they are very close to the NATO border. The Polish Deputy Foreign Minister went on to say, should this happen with the consent of the Ukrainian side, and also taking into account of international consequences. Yeah, they're going to start a war. German political leaders made a similar proposal this month, suggesting that NATO air defense bases in Poland and Romania should create a safe zone extending some 45 miles into western Ukraine. There are already NATO forces there in Ukraine. British and French troops are assisting Ukrainian troops in the use of the Storm Shadow SCALP cruise missile systems. Now, back in 2018, Vladimir Putin made a statement. He said that we have no concept of a preemptive strike. In such a situation, we expect to be struck by nuclear weapons. We will not use them first, he said. The aggressor will have to understand that retaliation is inevitable, and that will be destroyed, and that we as victims of aggression, as martyrs, will go to heaven. They will simply die because they won't even have time to repent, he said. I had heard, supposedly, he recently repeated this, that they would be all martyrs and go to heaven. So that's the latest. Got to keep an eye on July. If they do allow Ukraine to become a part of NATO, and with the troop movements into the borders, keep an eye out if they shoot down any of their rockets or drones that Russia may send into Ukraine. Yeah, that'll be a tipping point. There's a lot of talk, too, that Blinken is the one that's actually involved in what's going on with the U.S. policy. He's certainly been making the rounds around the world lately. I showed it on Twitter one time when he was making a trip there to the Middle East. Blinken was recently there in Ukraine. He made a 2-day visit and visited Zelensky. Maybe they were talking about how many new millionaires they would make with the $400 million that's probably going to be sent to Ukraine soon. Or how they're going to send in secretly, supposedly, more NATO forces to help them with their training and the arming of the defense systems, things like that. So what are your thoughts? Put your comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, please share, please thumbs up my videos. Make sure you're subscribed. And please subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.